Let's get rolling here. Want to start just in remembrance of 9/11. You know, as I woke up this morning and saw that, I can still see myself on campus at UMass on that day 22 years ago now. So I want to think about all the first responders and just tell them thank you. But media-wise, thank y'all for being here. Appreciate y'all coming out each week. We'll get a lot of attention nationally this week, but appreciate you all on a daily basis being here and covering us. We took care of business on Saturday night. Slow start, responded well after the delay, and got a convincing win, as we should have. You know, it was a fun night post the delay. I can't say it was a fun night before, but fun night post delay. Want to thank the fans that stayed. We had good energy in the stadium after the delay. You know, really good energy. I thought they did a good job game management-wise. Fans were into it, so that was fun. Quick Duquesne wrap-up. I'll kind of hit the good and then where we got to get better at. Special teams, the positives is our op times, both in field goal and punt, are really good. It was great to see kickoff-wise, touchbacks, and really good hang time. For touchbacks, we didn't have to cover a kick, which is always a positive. And then we continue to get really good pressure on opposing teams, extra points and field goals. And we handled all those specialty kicks. They never did kick it deep on kickoff return. I thought we did a good job handling those. We got to improve our punt coverage. Our expectation, our standard is to be elite there, and we weren't. Then obviously the miscue, you know, that disappointing start. Defense gets a 3-and-out. Duquesne actually goes backwards on their first series. And then we don't do a good job. We don't have a sense of urgency running up, pointing to the ball, and so that was the real negative on special teams. Defensively, I thought we played really physical. Played great against the run. You know, 0.1 yards per rush. Third down efficiency was good. We had 2 interceptions. Obviously, where we got to improve is on pass coverage, and it's really a few guys that are playing with some bad fundamentals. You know, whether it's not getting their hands on the 2 receiver and on zone drops, whether it's not looking at the quarterback when they should be looking at the quarterback. You know, it's but we got to get better, and that's only going to continue to get exposed as we move through the season, starting this week, unless we get that fixed. And offensively, you know, we had 600 plus yards, 300 plus rushing, 300 plus passing. I thought we were really efficient end of possession, 3rd and 4th downs. There's one, we had a 4th and short that, you know, irks me a little bit that we didn't get. We were really good in the red zone, been good in the red zone 2 weeks in a row. And we had a bunch of explosive plays. You know, the negative is the turnover down there going in to score, and we had some drops, which we talked about after the game. And so, and the failed short yardage conversion that I talked about just a second ago. And so, wanted to kind of wrap that up, and then we'll release the players of the game. You know, I think that, but I know I don't want to take y'all's time away from questions because I know y'all want to talk about Pitt. So kind of to preview Pitt, rivalry week, 106 meeting. Obviously, this is the biggest rivalry that we have in our program here. And we understand that here, both in this building and from a fan base standpoint. You know, I didn't know this, Monty. I'll credit Monty with this. This is the first Saturday night true night game since 2016 here. We played a couple Thursday nights, but this is the first Saturday night true, you know, post 7:30 kick since 2016. So I know our fans are happy about that. It's a great opportunity for our guys. When you look at Pitt, you know, offensively, Coach Signetti does a really good job. They're multiple. They're a run-first team. Everything they do is set up off their ability to run the football. And at quarterback, local guy, he's big, he's dual threat, strong arms. Does a really good job when the pocket breaks down. And so we've got to be able to locate those, which we didn't do a good job the other night. But you know, he's a guy that's very well thought of in the NFL circles, and so he's gonna be somebody that we've got to prepare for sure. O-line, it's a veteran group, a lot of the same guys. I think their left tackle's elite. You could see him early in the year last year, and he's gotten better. Tight end, they've got a lot of snaps in those guys. They'll play up to 3 of them. At running backs, they got a good mix of running backs with different skill sets. I really like the big kid, number 4. He's a load to tackle. And the receiver, they're talented. They're big and they're strong. Means is back. Mumfield is a really consistent guy, and they've got a transfer from Florida that's a good player as well. Defensively, they're attacking. I think that's been the kind of the DNA of their program is what they've done on defense. And they've had a lot of NFL players. They like the pressure, and a lot of players roll in and roll out, but the defense looks the same. I think it always starts with the D-line with those guys. And I think Charlie Partridge, the D-line coach there, does a tremendous job. They're very good up front. They play hard. The Hayes kid is an elite pass rusher. At linebacker, some backups that have moved into starting roles. They're long. They played the run well so far early in the season, and both 23 and 11 can really rush the passer, and they use them to blitz a lot. In the secondary, a lot of those guys return. They're going to come up in challenges. This is a team that's going to challenge you, especially on the perimeter. They're going to play in your face, and we got to be ready for that. Special teams-wise, they kind of do what they do. Their kicker's really good, high touchback percentage. They've always been good at kickoff return, and that's something, if you look back, really since they got there as a staff, they've been good. And then on punt, we got to be alert. The running back who I just talked about, number 4, he's in the shield, so we're going to have to do some different things just to be ready for a direct snap to him. And so overall, it's an exciting week. We won't have any problem getting our guys ready. It's an exciting time, ABC prime time. That's what it's all about. And so looking to redeem ourselves from last time we had a prime time opportunity. So with that, questions?
So obviously you know the history of the rivalry, but until you lived it last year, anything in that atmosphere?
Really unique atmosphere. We had a lot of people in the stadium up there. It's, you could feel it. I tell this story, because and I don't mean this in a negative way at all. Sometimes our fans are given a bad reputation, which I'm sure that was probably earned at some point, but it's not, as far as opposing teams coming in, but I don't think that's necessarily the case anymore. But I didn't realize the students got into the stadium early last year. So I had my kids, and my high school coach was getting inducted to the Hall of Fame the next day. So we played on Thursday, and he was getting inducted, so they asked me to shoot a video. So I'm out there shooting a video, and I had no idea the students were already there. And here I come out of the tunnel with Dax, and he learned some new words. And so he wanted to know why they were giving us a number 1 signal with the middle finger. And so from that point on, I got a good understanding for what it's about. No, I think it's fun. I think rivalries make college football, a lot of the rivalries have kind of gone to the wayside, which is disappointing. So I'm in favor. I've said this. I'm in favor of playing this game. I think this makes a lot of sense to be our non-conference Power 5 opponent each and every year. I think it's a game that their fans like to see. And so this is heated, and we understand that, and our players look forward to getting back into that.
So the atmosphere here Saturday night, like I said, night game.
I hope it's electric. Yeah, I hope it's electric. I know this is one that's been circled for a long time. It's been sold out for a long time. A lot of people coming into town for this, and so it's a great opportunity.
Curious, when you talk to the opposing coach before the game in rivalry games, what is it? Small talk? Is it usually what it is?
I don't know. It's one of those awkward things. Every head coach meeting before, I don't even know how that got started, honestly, but they're all awkward. You know what I mean? Like, it's good sportsmanship. You go out there and talk. If you really know the person, it's different. If you really know the person, it's you have a little bit more of a conversation, so to speak. The guys in the Big 12, you get to know because you spend some time with them, a couple times a year. But those are pretty. You talk without saying anything.
I got you.
It's funny you asked about that. They're rather awkward.
Injuries for you guys? Anything that you can mention?
No, I think that we're hopeful at receiver that we're going to get EJ, and this will be his first outing of the season. He practiced today, was trending that way toward the end of the week. I didn't see anything different. Traylon Ray worked limited today. I'm hopeful tomorrow will probably tell the story for him. Asani Redwood is back. He's going to fully participate in practice tomorrow. He did today as well. So that's a positive. We'll wait and see. Oliver left the game the other night, didn't come back. We'll wait and see how he progresses. Anybody else that you're wanting to know about? Devin, he practiced today. Yeah, he practiced today, and he'll play as long as he stays good all week. Yeah, Justin, he'll be back. Yeah, he'll be back. He probably could have gone on Saturday. We were careful. He didn't practice last week. He got hurt there close to the end of the Penn State game, but he practiced today, and we're hopeful he'll be able to go as well.
In terms of Jurkovec, obviously he's been around a while.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah, so what have you noticed? I don't know, maybe if you've got to watch film or anything yet of him this year, of him now versus years ago. How has he changed the quarterback? Things like that you could give in terms of what you feel of him.
Well, I think he's played his best football with Cignetti as his offense coordinator, both at BC, and this is, I think it's his 6th year, right? Yeah, and I know he's got I don't know him personally, but I can assume him coming back to the area where he's from. He's a Pine Richland kid. Coming back and playing for his school in his home city means a lot to him. And I saw him early in his career at BC, and then I saw him last year when they played Virginia Tech because they played him right before us. And then obviously watching him here and watching him at the end of last week and then against Wofford and then yesterday and early this morning. And the thing that really strikes you is how big he is. He's a big man. And so, and he's not a guy that's like, sometimes you see those big guys and they're just standers in the pocket. They're going to stand. He's not. He moves well. They do a good job of, it's a good mix of under center and some pro style looks and then some gun, and they have him read. And when he pulls the ball, he's effective as a runner. Though he's got a strong arm. Throws a deep ball. I'm sure they were disappointed they didn't connect as many against Cincinnati. I'm sure that's something they're really working on. They did versus Wofford. And so, but he's a guy that you can tell he's cerebral. You can tell he's up there. He's checking plays for those guys. The scary thing for me is when he breaks contain, and he gets out on the perimeter and he has the arm talent. He has the ability to run, and he's a lot bigger than most DBs. And then he's got the arm talent to really, when he gets out of the pocket, whether it's left or right, to throw the ball down the field. And so that's something that we've really got to be prepared for. And he's won a bunch of games. He took BC to a bowl game really young when Jeff was the head coach there. And so this is, I'm sure he grew up in this rivalry too. So this is a game that's going to mean a lot to him.
Has quarterback scrambling, has that been the biggest issue in pass coverage so far?
No, we've got a lot of issues, but the quarterback scrambling is he hurt us the other night, and we were pretty vanilla. The other night we've made some adjustments since Penn State, and hoping that because we were better, we may not give up some pass plays. Obviously, that wasn't the case. We still gave up some, but we broke contain. Really didn't hurt us against Penn State. Their quarterback got out one time and made a nice play on scramble. It did hurt us the other day. The kid from Duquesne made some plays out of the pocket. And they did. And let me say this, schematically, they did a nice job. They slid and used a tight end and a running back to the same side, which you don't see a whole lot, which I thought that was smart by them. But our issues are eye violations first and foremost, and second is not getting our hands on receivers and allowing them free runs.
So with Devin back, assuming, what's Hudson's role?
He's gonna play. Yeah, he's productive. He's gonna play. He's both those outside guys are pretty much interchangeable, and so Devin will play, and Hudson is he put up big numbers, and so he's going to continue to play. We might flip him over and play more at X, and when Devin comes back and plays Z.
Like as the head coach to do those scholarship awards.
That's fine. That's one of the best. That's one of the best things. And really, when you do it, so just talking about Hudson in particular, right? I really like to do it when you bring the family in. I think that makes it more special. And I need to connect. That reminds me, I need to connect with Hudson's mom and dad. But we try to do that where we bring the family in, because those are really like good moments, and you like to share them. But we've had a couple where we did it kind of spontaneous, and I think that's like, people need to understand when we talk about production all the time. So when you have production and you perform well, I think you need to be rewarded. And so I just felt like it was the right time the other night. But in Hudson's case, when he got here, he was really under recruited for whatever reason. He was under recruited, and sometimes when you get guys like that, you worry. Okay, what's the deficiency? Well, we learned really early on in him being here that he could run. Like he's probably the second fastest in our room. Like he legitimately can run. He ran 22.7 the other day on a GPS unit, and that's flying. Like that's really fast. And so if they can run and he has the work ethic, he already had ball skills. He was well coached in Martinsburg. He had a good understanding of route techniques. He needed to get better at the blocking game, and that's something he didn't do as good a job of the other night. But for us, so we knew that, and he showed up. We play this, we call it Monday Night Football. We do it today, where it's our development guys. And the kid made plays. Like every time we did it, he's making plays. And then in the spring, he showed up. Sometimes he made them, but you knew he had talent. In fall camp, same thing. He made plays here and there. Wasn't as consistent, but you knew it wasn't a talent issue. It was just, hey, he needed reps and he needed some opportunities. And so he did a really nice job on special teams. He started on 2 units against Penn State. And like I said, Devin just said, I watched him in warm-ups, and I'm like, he can't run full speed. Like, Devin wanted to play. He was upset with me because I told him, I was like, you're not running full speed. Like, we're not going to play you in this game. And so Hudson literally found out he was going to start and play a bunch of snaps, like right before we went out. And he took the most of it. And so I think the scholarship was going to happen as the year went on anyway. And so, why delay it when he had that performance?
Speaking of him and the idea of West Virginia kids playing for you, a lot of people said you couldn't, recruit West Virginia and be successful. What made you decide to approach it that way? And you've obviously had success bringing them in, and they've been good players.
Yeah, well, I think timing. A lot of it's timing. We were fortunate. I don't know if we'll ever have, 3, elite offensive linemen that can start at the same time. I think that's timing. We've had some unfortunate timing in some things, but we've been really fortunate with that. That we have Zach and Doug and Wyatt all at the same time. So I think there's a little bit of good fortune, and I'd be the first to admit that. The other thing is, I think the walk-on program goes way before me. I think there's a long, long history of West Virginia kids walking on and earning scholarships and playing a lot of football. And the way I always thought, and it's still, I think about this, if you can have about, at minimum, a quarter of your roster as West Virginia kids, then I think that's a really good makeup because, a lot of those kids from a walk-on standpoint, if they continue to play and they stick with it, they're going to earn scholarships. And then if you figure there's going to be anywhere from 2 to 4 in the state every year that are Power 5 type kids, and you get those guys, then you're going to be right there in that quarter of a roster. And that's really important because, those guys, I don't have to go in and tell Doug Nestor about the backyard brawl. I'm not telling Zach Frazier about the backyard brawl. I'm not telling Hudson Clement. If they're from different places, they know about the rivalry, but there's some education that goes in that's involved there. And then this is a unique situation because you're truly the state's team and you're playing for the state, and there's this real close identity between the state of West Virginia and the university and the football program. And so, those guys get it that are from here, and so they're able to communicate that better than I can, because they've lived it growing up. And so hope that answered your question, Bob.
Let me ask you this. Talk about the transferring high schools now and
Yeah.
creating mismatches and stuff like that. Does that hurt you as far as developing?
No, I just think I don't know. I think everything's trickled down. It's I'm probably more old school in that approach than most things. I just think there's something unique about representing the community you grew up in, and I think you have some real allegiance there. I don't think it really affects us at all. From a recruiting standpoint, you got to keep up with where they're at, but it's been that way in Florida and some other areas for a long time. And so it really doesn't affect us recruiting. It makes you sad a little bit that people bounce around, but it really doesn't. It's not a positive or a negative for us in recruiting.
In terms of going into a big rivalry game, what are the strengths, weaknesses, differences of having it after a few games have been played, week 3 versus last year, week 1?
Yeah, I don't know if there's I think there's a place for week 1 because if you think about it, if you go back, I mean, game day's there on that Thursday night. There's live feed. I can remember, being in the hotel and they're talking multiple, how many times they put SportsCenter on. They're talking about the backyard brawl and kicking off college football. So I think there's, you could make a strong case for it's beneficial being game 1. From a just a pure coaching perspective, you like to get some games under your belt before you play what your fans see as your most important game. So I could argue it both ways. I think that we know a lot more about our team right now than we did going into week 1 last year.
I got a question for you here. Got into the analytic rabbit hole here, and I was looking at Garrett's passing numbers, and there's a big variance in that first quarter. I mean, that's his lowest completion percentage by far. It gets better as the game goes on. What can you deduce from that?
Well, he's a ball of energy. So that's what so that's his greatest strength. So you don't want to necessarily he does a really good job of being that energy guy all the time. That probably works against him a little bit at the start of the games because he is so amped up. And so we've got to figure out a way, as a staff, and I'm talking about, everything from our sports psych people to, our strength and our sports science into coaching to get him to calm down a little bit, where he can execute it a little bit higher. Because when you're amped up like that and you're full of energy, like he's got like his ball, I'm not trying to get too specific here, but he throws a really tight ball. Like if you're ever down field level and y'all watch him throw, like he's got RPMs on his ball. Like it's a tight spin. And when he gets really excited, that ball comes out hot. And those balls are hard to catch sometimes. So, and he knows this and he's conscious of it. But it hurts him a little bit early in the game. So we've got to – he'll get better at it. It's just handling those emotions.
I think leads the country in sacks over the last however many years.
Yeah, they were number 1 last year.
How do you get Garrett ready for that?
Well, I think we got to help him schematically first and foremost. They do a really good job of scheming protections. And let's face it too. Now they've had good players. They've had good players on the front. They've got good players this year on the front. They do a really good job of scheming protections and trying to get you in one-on-ones. And we've got to do a good job helping him out by not necessarily getting our guys in bad matchups and then not having plays called where he's got to hold the ball. But they've done a really good job rushing the passers. They were number 1 in the country last year, and they've done a good job of putting pressure on the first 2 guys they played as well.
I think the first words that Garrett kind of had some bad luck with drops of receivers. It seemed like he did not. The energy didn't come out there.
Yeah.
He kept it together. Do you observe any of that stuff?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that because we actually had that conversation. I was telling him yesterday. He probably handled that. He handled it better than I did, first of all. But he's probably handled that as good or better than any quarterback I've ever had. If you go back and look, I mean, he threw 2 really dime throws that should have been touchdowns, and he threw another one on an outcut that should have been a first down. We had 4 legitimate drops in the game, but it didn't faze him one bit, and totally unsolicited. I kind of peeked back there, and he's over there talking to the guys that didn't make the catches, and he didn't. And he did the same thing. I think we had 2 drops at Penn State, and he really didn't. He didn't let it affect him. At Penn State, I think we were able to overcome those and still got first downs in that drive.
Now that you've gone through one backyard brawl,
Mm-hmm.
how does it compare to the rivalries you saw on Friday nights in Boyle County, the ones you saw at UMass, and the ones you saw as a coach?
Well, I think there's when I was in school, so like none of you all are local people, but like it was unique when I went to high school. So it was my high school now is, I'll get in trouble at home for saying this, but the high school that I went to, Boyle County, is really, it's grown into one of the premier programs in the state. But growing up, I moved there right before my freshman year, in Danville, the city school where Shadon went, and I needled him pretty good on this. They had beaten us. I don't know. It was like 17, 18 straight years. And so then we were able to flip it my junior year, and it's really stayed flipped for a long time. But that was a heated rivalry. I mean, you're talking about, longer than I want to remember. But that was at a time where, like, there was really, like, rivalries. Like now, like high school kids hang out together. Like we weren't hanging out with Danville kids, and so it was a pretty heated rivalry. And so probably didn't experience the Kentucky-Louisville rivalry is pretty intense. And that's probably the thing that I would closely resemble, because I think there's a lot of similarities in that rival. Even though Kentucky and Louisville's within the same state, the distance between the two schools, like West Virginia and Pitt, is very similar. And there's a strong dislike there between the two fan bases, just like there's a strong dislike between the two fan bases here. So I think that probably is the rivalry that probably closely resembles it. It doesn't have it's nowhere, not anywhere in the same vicinity of having the history and the football programs from a rivalry standpoint. I think that was not so much this year, but last year, really digging deep into that and learning about the history of the rivalry and some of the classic games. And I don't know. I mean, there's very few college football rivalries that have the same the same can. I'm trying to think the proper way to say this. The memorable moments, and especially when they were in the same when West Virginia and Pitt was in the same conference. Some of those games really hinged and on the whole, whether with some opportunities playing some elite bowl games, national championship, et cetera. And so I would say this is the biggest rivalry from a football standpoint that I've been a part of. I said a lot to say that.
Played a lot of players, a lot of young guys that were probably redshirt. Anybody jumped out at you when you went back and watched among those that may not even play anymore this year?
Yeah, Johnny Williams on the front. I thought he's a guy we've been excited about. I talked about him some in fall camp. I thought he did some nice things. Obviously, Jaheim was productive. We kind of expected that. He'll continue. His role is going to continue to grow. DJ Oliver, he showed, he's got to continue to work on some things, but I think you saw what kind of guy he is. He's a downhill runner, and he but I thought that was good. Sully Weedman is another offensive lineman I thought did a nice job. When you turn it over to defense, Corey McIntyre, we got him some snaps. He's productive. He's got a bright future. I thought and then Ben Cutter, we played him a lot. And he did some things that were really good, and he got exposed in a couple areas. He knows he got to get better. But he's the guy that we're going to need to play as the year progresses.
You said after the game, back to the drawing board, secondary stuff, personnel, scheming.
Well, I think that we've got 2 games now. And without getting into it here, I mean, there's going to be some